Hello, everyone. We have quite a few folks signed up, so we're just trying to get everything queued up so we have this meeting run smoothly. So if you just give me 2 seconds before we begin here. And okay, so welcome everyone to the Monday, September 29th meeting of the Planning and Development Committee. Can we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Rogers.
Here.
Councilmember Geracaris.
Here.
Councilmember Kelly. Here. Councilmember Isles.
Here.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Davis.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Seeing we have a quorum and are ready to do our work, we will first start things off with public comment, or actually approval of the minutes. I'm jumping ahead. So I have a motion for the approval of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I would move item M1, approval of the minutes from the regular Planning and Development Committee meeting of September 8th, 2025.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. And I also want to make note that we are adding Councilmember Burns to the roster. So I think if we can have seeing we're all here in person, let's have a voice vote on that one. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the meeting minutes have been approved. So we'll move forward to public comment. As always, we will start off public comment with folks that signed up on the sign-in sheet up front, and then we'll move along to folks that signed up online to comment in person. And then as we move forward, we will have, once we move forward, we also will have time for presentations by local organizations who have asked. So we will start things off, and everyone will have 2 minutes for public comment. And first name on the list is Susan Kelly. Susan Kelly here?
Right here. Hi.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Susan Kelly. Is this working? Yeah.
Yep.
My name is Susan Kelly. I live downtown. It's 1640 Maple Avenue, and I'm here to speak about the 605 Davis development. I support adding more residents downtown, and I'm really proud of the fact that one of the reasons that Evanston's population grew in the last consensus is because my neighborhood grew in population by about 30%. I support more support for commercial business downtown, but also think that our development needs are more profound than just adding more people. You know, it's hard to understand why more people than ever live downtown and our vacancy rate is still stubbornly high. It's also hard to understand, if it's just a matter of adding people, why we have nearly 900 units of occupied housing above the Albion, E2, and Optima Horizons all over empty retail space. I support developing a vacant lot for housing downtown, and I don't object to high-rises because I live in one, but I cannot support a proposal for this high-rise as it stands. Some people look at downtown Evanston as just a commercial area, but for the 7,500 people who live there, we look at it as our neighborhood. And so I'm going to ask you if this was a proposal in front of you for your neighborhood that you were deciding on. It's a proposal to develop a house on a vacant lot. The submitted design exceeds the existing requirements for this lot, but the builder proposes mitigating this problem by stating, well, they also own the lot next door, so they'll just add that square foot in, even though it has nothing in relationship to the design. Then, even with this creative calculation, they ask you for a nearly 30% increase in the allowable FAR allowance to accommodate the size. The next request asks for an exception to height requirements by about 40% over the maximum allowable height, 40%. And they say it's okay because there's more next door. So I'm going to close. I have more, but I'm going to say, ask yourself, would you approve these exceptions in your neighborhood? And if you wouldn't, don't include them in ours. I think we should develop housing on this this space, but I think we already provide generous zoning allowances, and we can do better. And please do better on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Frank Hill.
Hi, good evening. Frank Hill, 7th Ward resident, Board VP of Rezoning for a Better Evanston. The United States has an affordability crisis. That means Evanston does too. There is no perfect path forward, but there is also nothing values aligned for us self-described progressives about maintaining the status quo. Beware the individual who insists all they need is more data to support affordable housing in Evanston. Is there really an affordability crisis in Evanston? I might be convinced if only I had more data. Articles in Forbes that place Evanston in the top 10 for inequity in wealth distribution, the U.S. Census, which shows the median household income for black households in Evanston is $56,000. These same council members who need more data say, I support affordable housing, just not this affordable housing project. I support shelters for unhoused residents, but not the Margarita Inn. I support inclusionary housing, but not this inclusionary housing ordinance. I support affordable housing, but not 605 Davis, because of wind tunnels or tax credits. These council members and the residents who echo and uphold them would have you believe that they know a better, impossible to accomplish way, a perfect way. Of course, they never present these perfect plans or these developments. The arguments against specifics, policies, and projects are fatuous and specious, and they belie the conscious or unconscious core beliefs that animate them: anti-progressiveness, anti-development, anti-affordability, and anti-integration of workforce households into the exclusive wards of Evanston. We have an opportunity to make a small affirmative move to create affordable housing now with the case of 605 Davis. No, it's not perfect, but to reject it is not principled. It's to side with those who would have us delay until the end of time. To those council members who I know are essentially for this project, this development at 605 Davis, please vote yes. Vote your values. Vote your conscience. The nays won't be convinced of anything until you agree with them on everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Roger Williams.
Good evening, members of Evanston City Council. I'm Roger Williams. I'm a real estate broker in Evanston. Both of my daughters attended and graduated from Evanston District 65 and District 202 schools. This evening, you're considering for approval the project of 605 Davis Street. It would be the largest apartment building in Evanston and is expected to have a significant positive impact on the two Evanston schools systems, districts rather, which is why I'm standing before you this evening. The property, much of which has sat vacant for a half century, currently yields only $21,450 in property taxes. 605 Davis is scheduled to open in 2028, and by 2031 will have a property tax bill of $581,416. By 2034, the property taxes paid will be $1,248,649. And by 2040, $2,725,513. It will be one of the largest property tax entities in Evanston. The proposed development is expected to yield 18 elementary school children and 8 high school students. Over the course of this study, 2026 to 2040, Evanston School District 65 will receive $6,400,945 in new property tax revenue. Evanston School District 202 between 2026 and 2040 will receive $3,672,709 in new property tax revenue. Starting in 2034, both school districts will see a net positive revenue after accounting for the additional student enrollment. Particularly for District 65, which has seen a 22.7% decline in enrollment since 2017. The project both adds students and creates net revenues for over $1.8 million during this study period. Don't miss this golden opportunity to add significant property tax revenues for Evanston School District 65 and 202. In addition, the approval of 605 Davis will provide 86 affordable units and help slow down the out-migration of black residents from Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Darush Mabadi.
Hi, staff, everyone. My name is Darush Mabadi. I live at 1024 Hinman, 3rd Ward. I really like this building, but I'm opposing it for a couple reasons. And I wanted to share them with you and hopefully that you'll give it some consideration. The first concern I have is the loss of tax revenue associated with the credits that they would be getting if we had a 20% inclusion stack of affordable housing. I'm not against affordable housing. I think we should do affordable housing anywhere we can and everywhere we can. But if we're going to spend $30 or $40 million in lost tax revenues to build an extra 5 or 10% of the units in this building is affordable, we're spending per unit an incredible amount of money to deliver an outcome when there's a lot of other low-hanging fruit out there that we could be discussing, which I would be happy to discuss with anyone at any time. I do have a solution, though, for this project. I would ask you guys to pause this for 30 days, ask staff to review what the tax consequences would be at 20, at 15, and at 10%. And if that doesn't work, ask the developer, because I don't mind going higher. I know that a lot of people would disagree with me, but I would ask the developer how many units they have to build, retaining the 89 units inclusionary to make the building financially manageable, justifiable for them to develop, at the same time keeping the tax load that we would get like our peers all around us. You know, you got Park Evanston, you have Avador, you have these other buildings that are paying taxes. Get this building to pay taxes from day one and ask them how many more units they have to create to make it worth them to do. At least know what that is, know what the costs are, know what the consequences are, and then decide. Please don't decide this without having this information. Thank you. And I'll see you in an hour.
Thank you. Next up, we have Brian Hansen.
Hello, committee members. I'm Brian Hansen, and I'm a 24-year resident of Evanston, and I'm here today to speak in support of the development at 605 Davis Street, not just as a downtown project, but as a citywide opportunity to both strengthen our fiscal future and address our housing crisis. Right now, as you all know, the site only generates about $21,000 a year in property taxes, and over time, this project will generate $66.7 million in revenue. Just for the city, it's going to generate over $8 million of revenue, money that we need to invest in public safety, infrastructure, and public services at a time that we're under severe budgetary pressure. That's the next thing you guys are going to face, is how to fund our budget as we work down our reserves. Our schools are going to benefit. District 65 and 202 both will receive millions in revenue to help offset declining enrollment and stabilizing funding for families across our entire city. This development brings economic vitality. I've heard so often the council express concern about our downtown region and the businesses in downtown. This brings literally hundreds of new consumers downtown to patronize our restaurants and businesses. And let's talk about equality. Let's talk about our housing affordability. This project includes 86 affordable units. It would be the largest single-site addition of affordable housing that perhaps the city has ever seen. And where are these homes? These new homes are downtown near jobs, schools, and transit. Exactly the kind of development that we want. Some raise concerns about timing, that the financial benefits happen down the road, and argue that's a reason not to do it at all. But let's be clear, it took over 8 years to negotiate this deal. If we don't act, we're just going to leave millions of dollars in revenue behind that the city wouldn't collect. Please move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have David Galloway.
Good evening, members of P&D. I'm David Galloway. I've lived in Evanston since '83. I've been active in the Plan Commission, the Preservation Commission, and various other organizations that have participated and encouraged proper development and investment and good design in Evanston. Fundamentally, I want to encourage each of you to not make a decision tonight that in hours, days, or months from now you will regret. I do not want you to be a no. I would prefer that you be a yes, even if it is with subsequent contingencies. You know, developers get criticized for asking for exceptions to do the kinds of projects that the market demands and oftentimes that the public needs. Part of the reason for that is that the city of Evanston has simply not redefined or renewed its zoning ordinance in the downtown for many, many years. There's a downtown plan that was approved over a decade ago, but no zoning plan was ever instituted. So as a consequence, it's an open game, and it becomes a game. And because it is so unspecific and unvisual, we are put in these difficult positions like we are tonight, where the developer can become a demon asking for too much, and the public and you are not better informed as to what kind of form is most appropriate for these sites in the downtown. We are a city. Cities are composed of high-rises. This project will be environmentally friendly. It will generate tax revenue, the amount of which may yet to be determined. It will provide great economic benefit. And we must realize developers are not the enemy. They are here to develop, create, manifest, provide within the market within which they exist. So keep that under consideration. Okay. This may not be a perfect project, but maybe with a little effort, it can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have, I'm sorry, I'm having problems reading. Dan Lev, I think. Dan?
Thank you.
It's not you, it's my handwriting, so thank you.
I actually just got new transition lenses, so I'm struggling a little bit.
But thank you. I want to comment on some of the arguments. I've been at several of meetings about 605 Davis starting in April until now, just running quickly through some of the reasons people have said they do not want to support it. Light, wind, parking, traffic it may bring to the area, and potentially a loss of character of downtown. Many of these problems are real and legitimate, and I do not want to dismiss my fellow citizens' concerns. That being said, I think the benefits greatly outweigh the costs. The benefits, as have been spoken, greatly increase tax revenue, new residents to downtown. At a meeting in April, I believe pardon me for forgetting his name, but the gentleman who is the chair of the Development of Downtown Business Community said this is exactly the kind of project he would like to see in downtown. The strategic housing plan dropped a few weeks ago, and one of the main goals of the strategic housing plan was to create and preserve thousands of new units in Evanston. This project creates 430, 90 of which are affordable housing units. I want to quickly raise points about the potential loss of tax revenue or tax giveaways. I do not believe any capital expenditures by the city are being called for this project. That comparison about a loss of tax revenue is compared to, I suppose, a hypothetical where a building of the same size and scope is proposed for the site but does not use the statewide tax credits. And while that is true, the same building in the same place that was not requiring a statewide tax subsidy would create more tax revenue, it's also an impossible hypothetical because that's not the deal in place. One of the gentlemen who spoke before me raised the interesting point about if the developer was willing to expand the size and the council was willing to hear what would happen if the building were to be enlarged and take no tax credits. If the council were to consider that, I suppose it'd be theoretical, but that's not, at the moment, real and is not what is before us. So overall, the tax revenue, the new citizens, the downtown revitalization, and all the positives that are go along with this project, I think greatly outweigh the costs. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving along our list, Jeff Smith.
Thank you, members of the committee, staff. I'm the president of Central Street Neighbors Association, which has not taken a formal position on this building, but I'm authorized to say that we support planning, we support sticking to zoning, and we support residents of neighborhood who we believe have granular knowledge of what goes on in the sidewalks, the alleys, the streets of any neighborhood in this city. There's a lot of objections to this project that all stem from one basic thing. It's too much mass and bulk on too little space. It explodes our zoning. We've got problems with downtown that stem largely in our planning, some of the objections that we see raising in Envision Evanston 2045, because we've let the exception become the rule, and then that becomes the argument. So today's new exception becomes the argument for another exception down the road. There's no way you can say with a straight face that 12 stories on Davis Street, right up to the lot line, is compatible with the row of small businesses across the street, which is in the immediate vicinity. But the Land Use Commission didn't address the downtown standards as they're required to do in the zoning. I don't disagree that developers are not the enemy. Nobody should be the enemy. But certainly people who live in Evanston, residents, neighbors, are not the enemy, should not be treated as the enemy. The project's own marketing analyses, if you read through them, are very clear and detailed about the value that accrues to a project from its height and from rendering other buildings, quote, in their words, inferior. So there's a case to be made from anybody whose quality of life, view shed, whatever, is going to be made inferior, that their property values have suffered, and that hasn't been brought forward in this discussion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That concludes our list of folks who signed up in person. We will move.
We have some more.
We'll move on. We'll move on to people who signed up online to speak in person. So, and some will be on video. So, we'll take everyone who signed up online to speak next. So first up is Gul Aga. He's here.
Good evening, councillors, chair. I'm Gul Aga. I'm a member of the board of the Downtown Evanston Residents Association and also on the Evanston Environment Board. First of all, I'd like to clearly state that this project is contrary to Evanston's environmental goals. The project, this height of this building will add the equivalent of over 10 million miles of gasoline-driven cars by 2023 mileage standards to each year for 75 years of the building. So that's the differential between the square footage on this building and the similar square footage on a low-rise. Many cities that are environmentally conscious, such as Paris, have banned high-rises for this reason and have 5 times the density. We can get density. Secondly, I'd like to challenge the notion of trickle-down economics, the supply-side trickle-down economics that's been done. It has never worked. Vancouver increased its housing supply by 3-fold. Rents and prices went up 4-fold. If you look at Evanston, the population hasn't changed much in 20 years, yet we've had thousands of more units constructed and rents have gone up. When you make a luxury building, rents go up, the value of land goes up. Finally, as a professor, I was also my career as a professor and a scientist, I would say any proposal of this sort, if I had gotten as a project report, would get an F. They pick, just to give you some examples, they do not pick the standards of 95% on the wind. They do not say whether you can sit or stand in Fountain Square. From their analysis, it's clear that you cannot sit or stand at least 1 out of 5 days. We don't know what the safety is. The 95% criterion that's standard is not used. If you look at the traffic data, they pick a day, that's the President's Day, a holiday, and do an analysis of the traffic. This is absurd. It's an insult to the intelligence of the people of Evanston to put a proposal of this sort with data that's entirely misleading, with 2 out of 9 on the environment, on the energy performance metrics. It has done nothing to mitigate the damage to the environment that has been caused by high rise, from the solar gains, from the water being continuously pumped up, from the high winds. We have no technologies in this building to mitigate it, no electrochromic windows, no basic concrete that's green concrete. Let me stop here, but let me point out that we need real data, not fake data, not bogus data, but real data on the traffic, real data on the environmental impact, and real data on the wind. Thank you.
Thank you. Samuel Gaiman.
Thank you very much. My name is Sam Gaiman. I'm 28 years old. I live downtown at 807 Davis. I'm here to support 605 Davis. And I first want to start with considering who is in the room tonight. And I want to recognize that they mostly skew over age 50 or retired, white, homeowners, not currently raising children. And then I want to think about who is less represented, who lives in Evanston, who isn't in this room tonight. Younger people like myself, parents, renters, a lot of the working class. And why don't we hear those people's voices tonight? Well, maybe they couldn't find or afford childcare tonight. Maybe they are working a second job in which they are struggling to afford groceries, and that's how they're going to pay for it. And by the way, groceries might be getting 1% more expensive tonight. Maybe they live 30 minutes away because they can't afford the luxury of living downtown. I understand the desire to listen to public comment, but I encourage you to remember those who are not currently in the room, the majority of Evanston. You are here to represent everyone, not just the people here tonight. People cannot afford housing. It's a simple truth. This building is a step in the right direction. It is not perfect, but any progress is good progress. You will hear many lines of opposition, as we already have. The property tax discount, which I think a gentleman earlier laid out very well, the difference between the hypothetical, which isn't a real hypothetical, and what actually is going to occur. A discounted large number is better than a tiny number on an empty lot, which is currently the case. And the others, like the skyline changing or the windiness or the traffic. Folks, we live in a city. It's a city, right? These are small inconveniences, but the benefits are absolutely massive. Housing for something like 600 people, growth downtown. We need to focus on what we can control right now. We need more housing and we need more tax revenue. This provides both. And one last final note, a lot of the people in opposition tonight live in 25-plus story downtown residential buildings, and they're opposing 25-plus story downtown residential buildings. That's the height of hypocrisy. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Valerie Kretschmer.
Thank you very much. I live at 807 Davis Street, and I'm in support of this project. I'm a retired urban planner. I worked for decades in the affordable housing and housing industries, and there's been a lot of misinformation that's been going on about what tax implications are for this and what the needs are for new housing. I've written to all of the aldermen, so I'm not going to repeat what I've already written to them, but since I sent my letter, there has been the recently released housing gap analysis that was prepared for the city by a very reputable consultant, which showed a gap of 5,200 rental units by 2035 and a gap currently of 1,400 income restricted units for households with incomes under 60% of the area median income. There is no way that the city can meet this need without some larger buildings. Small buildings with 2 and 3 units in single family neighborhoods are never going to come close to meeting this need, nor will accessory dwelling units, though those are very useful to have, but they're not going to meet the need. That same gap analysis showed over the last 10 years, there were 1,800 new units citywide of all types. 91% were multifamily. Only 33 were in multifamily buildings with less than 5 units. And right now, there are only like 950 affordable units in the whole city. So in order to meet our housing goals, we need a lot more housing, and the only way we're going to get it is by looking at transit-oriented downtown districts that make sense for this. I would also like to point out that there's been a lot of misinformation about the Affordable Housing Special Assessment Program. Right now, there are 4 properties in the city of Evanston that make use of the Affordable Housing Special Assessment Program. This is a program that is by right, that is a county program by state law. If you don't like it, then you have to go to your state legislators and have it changed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jesper Stelter.
Good evening. My name is Jesper Stelter. I'm a resident of the 4th Ward. I've lived in Evanston since I was about 5 years old, minus a stint for about 15 years while I joined the military. This property has been vacant for the better part of my entire life. I don't remember it being anything else, so I'm not going to try and regale you with stats and additional information, but I'd like to see this turned into something and let it be another empty lot. I think it's good to have additional housing options, regardless on whether or not individuals can afford them and whether or not we get the affordable units we need or not. It will provide a ceiling on the city for new units and help push prices down, at least marginally. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, we have Rob Keating.
Thank you. No single building can be everything that Evanston wants or needs, but 605 Davis will have a huge positive impact on housing, transit, and the economic challenges of our community, providing 86 affordable units, each and every one of which are desperately needed, generating additional customers for businesses, better conditions for more pedestrians and cyclists, and providing transit riders to enhance our prospects of getting improved bus and rail service. Ample capacity exists for the remaining non-transit trips on our streets and in the garages, dispersing cars across the downtown road network, maintaining level of service C or better, which is defined by the US DOT as, quote, stable flow at or near free flow of vehicles. Research demonstrates that mid and high rises in urban areas are better for the environment, both in terms of embedded carbon per bedroom, but also in terms of transportation emissions also, than single-family homes and lower density sprawl. All kinds of residents benefit from projects like this. As AARP says, quote, taller buildings downtown and near transit benefit older adults, having entrances with no steps, located by accessible transportation and services. This can aid with aging in place, increasing turnover of existing properties, allowing for more families and younger couples to enter the community. As Pew Research finds, quote, large bipartisan majorities of the public, 8 in 10, support high density near transit. If there's one site in all of Evanston where a building of this density and scale should exist, it's on this vacant lot. I see no reason why we should water down this proposal or pass on this fantastic opportunity, and I strongly support 605 Davis. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Jeff Forgash.
Thank you. My name's Jeff Forgash. I live at 1580 Sherman, right on Fountain Square. So I've been enjoying the life of living downtown for 3 years. I've lived in Evanston for 40 years, all over the city. I ran my business for 30 years from downtown Evanston, from the south side and from the north side. So I'm very familiar with downtown Evanston. On the way over here, I almost got hit by a skateboarder. This afternoon, I rode my bike to the lake, and there were 2 electric scooters on the sidewalk, and there were bikes on the sidewalks. 2 weeks ago, I witnessed an elder lady get attacked by a young woman who was riding a bike on the sidewalk. It got so violent that everybody in Fountain Square started coming down there. I sat and had lunch today at Fountain Square, and I was approached by a couple of panhandlers. And let me be very clear, I am for affordable housing. I'm one of the founders, and I have helped run the Beth Emmett Soup Kitchen for 22 years, and I have volunteered for Connections for the Homeless for over 20 years. So I realize and appreciate the need for housing for lower income, but I don't think we have the resources once we build the legacy to even cope with the safety that's required downtown, which also includes delivery vehicles pulling out in front of me and blocking my driveway. So the other thing is I'm concerned about who's going to be in that building, since the legacy is already going to add a lot of units. And I think it's going to go to Northwestern grad students. And I actually went through a bunch of reviews today of the Albion and the E2. And by the way, I closed my business at 1840 Oak because of the construction of the E2. It was so disruptive that I couldn't make conference call and could not have clients come over. 1840 was literally across the street from E2. So the disruption that's going to occur to the businesses is going to be incredible. No one's going to come downtown while they build it. The E2, just like the new Albion in Evanston, are merely high-end apartments for Northwestern graduate students, especially Kellogg students whose parents usually foot the bill. Noisy and reeking of pot and cigarettes during after hours, these high-end buildings are merely money funnels focused on housing students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have John Kennedy.
Good evening, council members. John Kennedy. I've been in Ward 3 and a resident for about 40 years. Evanston is blessed to have as many talented and experienced residents who volunteer their service for our various committees and commissions. They devote many hours in preparation, reading through sometimes hundreds of pages of material and then attending the meetings, often for many hours, contemplating and debating questions of policy with their fellow committee members. Committee members that I know take their responsibilities very seriously, which is why they put in the time. I am sure that many of them, it's a way of giving back, just like the way you guys are up at the dais tonight. The Land Use Commission is typical in its makeup, with members who are architects, designers, zoning experts, and developers. Their common bond? They are all residents, volunteering their time and in theory reflecting the wishes and opinions of the wider Evanston community. The Land Use Commission examined the application for the development of 605 Davis. They listened to many public comments and debated the many issues that the proposal brought forth for hours. The Land Use Commission voted not to recommend the proposal to move forward. I think it behooves this body, which is made up entirely of council members, to respect the opinion of the Land Use Commission and send the proposal back to the negotiation table for the many issues raised and are still unresolved from the Land Use Commission perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Linda Demishak.
Good evening, Linda Damashek. As always, there's so much more to say and there's not enough time, so I'm going to keep myself to just 2 reasons why this development is completely unacceptable. First, the size. 31 stories is completely unacceptable. And everyone should know that this developer already had a proposal that was approved by this council for 18 stories, I believe is in 2020. So the ROI they figured out, it was financially viable. This is financially viable then, it could be financially viable now. The other major reason is that the property tax loss for the city and for the school district is completely unacceptable. And most importantly, at this financial juncture for our schools, and ironically, they're actually discussing it tonight at this very same time, how many schools to close. So there really is absolutely no way that the tax revenue loss can be borne by the city and the school districts at this time. The developer paying only minimal property taxes for 3 years and below market property taxes until year 30 simply cannot be borne by city residents who will be subsidizing this luxury development. The developer just thinks that this current political environment is more favorable and is pushing an unacceptable proposal now. This developer should be reasonable and settle for the reasonable height of 18 stories that they already proposed previously. They should go back to that proposal.
Okay, thank you. That concludes in-person comment for folks that signed up online, and we are moving to public comment for folks that signed up online. So the first person is okay, well, we're going to go through this list, and then there are some folks that might have signed up for city council and signed up for the wrong committee, so we will address that after this. So we're going to move on to folks that signed up for P&D public comment online to do their online public comment. First up is Aiden Keefe, which I see them online. If you can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right. Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name's Aiden. I'm a student at Northwestern, and I'm speaking today to express concern about the proposed project at 605 Davis. My main concern about the project centers on the large property tax break it is slated to receive in exchange for exceeding Evanston's IHO requirement. Because state law imposes this tax break by right in suburban municipalities, every project that meets the law's requirement will automatically receive this large tax break without any input from council members. 605 Davis is one of those projects. Allowing this project to proceed will set a precedent that will be difficult for the city and especially our local school districts to afford. This is only exacerbated by the front-loaded structure of the tax break. The report prepared by the Perman Group, a consultant hired by the developer, projects that District 202 and District 65 will receive negative net tax revenue on the development until 2034. Essentially, the school districts will be paying more in services for the residents of the development than they will be receiving in tax revenue. Existing homeowners and renters whose property taxes will increase to make up for this lost revenue will pick up this cost. This comes at a time when our school districts are already struggling to pay the bills and face a growing threat from the federal government. Approving 605 Davis in its current form will set a precedent that could cause lasting damage to the finances of the city and local school districts, as well as the existing residents of Evanston who will see their property tax bills go up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kira Kelly. Are you online, Kira? Okay, going once, going twice. Now, if folks who thought they signed up to comment for the P&D can please raise their hand. Okay. Let's give us a second here. Okay. By the honor system here, so whoever raised their hand first can come up. Don't push and shove though. Be nice. Okay.
I'm Ting Ting Pan. So I'm the young professional and the young families in Evanston. We live here for like 10 years. I moved to Evanston right after my graduation of U of I. I'm here today in support of this project as a young generation. So there are a couple points I want to mention. One thing, first thing, I'm also the member of Design Evanston. So I know this project for a while. I've been encouraged to join the Design Evanston by my son's friend's mother, and I feel so honored to be in this group and to be able to make efforts for the neighborhood. But I want to say is there's a many young professionals like us want to make efforts too, but they've been blocked by the city because they cannot purchase a place or even rent a place. They've been like looking to the red things for a couple of years. As we all know, the inventory of the listed place to purchase is very low, and there's not enough places to rent as well. All those high-rise towers here in the downtown are mainly for the student housings. So they think Evanston provides such a great opportunity to connect people like walking downtown, but live not too far from downtown. We have such a great public systems, and it's such a great like university town. It's just they couldn't find the places to purchase or rent. And we also know many friends, they are the students of Northwestern. They want to live here after their graduation. It's the same issue. There's some data I saw on the newspaper is like 1/3. They're like 1/3 of people's revenue, like not like 1/3 of the people like paying like 30% of their revenue for their rentals. I think that's crazy. And also there are some other numbers we collected from our like surrounding people is like, for example, there's a mid-rise mid-rise residential buildings with like 9 square footage, 2 Bs. They rented for about like $2,900. I think that's crazy. So we do think, we understand like the zoning and traffic concerns. And as the people mentioned previously, this design might be not currently a perfect design, but we trust professionals can make that better. And we also trust Evanston is like is like a very open, friendly city, embarrassing like new generations and new young professionals to live here for generation after generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Jennifer Grandy here? Yes.
I said it for city council, but
This is okay.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Grandy. I'm a downtown resident and I'm voicing support for the proposed building at 605 Davis. First, I'm an introvert. I don't want to be here, but this issue is too important. The proposed tower on Davis represents an incredible opportunity to invigorate downtown, and successful downtowns require a consistent and diverse array of patrons, and we don't have that right now. Downtown has been impacted by changes in office attendance and, as always, the seasonality of the student population. Adding more residents to the heart of the city helps create a more consistent, reliable environment for current businesses and may even bring in new ones. Further, it would remedy a vacant lot that's been on a scar on the landscape for 50 years. But we all know this. Yet for every proposed development, a small contingent says the sky will fall. The same arguments come up: wind tunnels, parking, a mass takeover by stoned Northwestern students and child-free couples, blanket statements about increased package delivery, and that's really just a few of them. It's flooding the zone with shit for every proposal. That rhetoric is how you get a vacant lot in the middle of downtown for 50 plus years and a housing crisis. It's bad faith arguments that cost the city time, money, and potential. I've been to a lot of these, and I could say this with some certainty. It doesn't matter how large or small the proposal is. With the exception of wind tunnels, many of the same alleged concerns arose for the Masonic Temple redevelopment, and that is a low-rise building from the 1920s. That redevelopment is done and the sky didn't fall. Same alleged concerns were raised about the Albion, same result, sky didn't fall. You can go back to the coverage of the Carlson building in the 1920s when it was built, and some residents also thought it would turn Evanston into Chicago, but clearly that didn't happen. So the playbook is old, the noisy prejudices are even older. Fear and anger are powerful motivators and political tools, and we're seeing that every day lately. Too often, theoretical fears of change blot out practical solutions, and successful cities are successful when the politics of fear and anger are deprived of oxygen. Otherwise, we might as well be a gated community. In closing, I ask the council to not bend to the noise and to approve this development. This proposal is the right step to a thriving downtown. Otherwise, we'll have 2 vacant lots and the same problems. Thank you.
Thank you. So Meg Welch, if you want to come up.
So, I don't think any of you council members, actually, I know for certain, none of you were council members back in, I don't know if it was 2019, but there was a residential proposal on this parcel for 18 stories, and it didn't pass. But it was considered viable. And I would just like to submit that, yes, if you combine this parcel with the university building, you will get more quote unquote affordable units. But it will also maximize, I think the push for this also, more affordable units, it will maximize the developer's profits. It is not your job to maximize the developer's profits. And one thing that has not been considered is how the market rate units in this building are more than my mortgage. I bought my house 10 years ago. I couldn't afford to rent in this building. And I'd like to submit that affordable housing, please people, everything that is labeled affordable is not truly affordable. I had to move back on an emergency basis from California where I was working because my daughter was catastrophically ill. And my house, I was leasing it out. I came back here and it was a godsend to find an apartment on Reba Place, a 2-bedroom, no frills, that rented for $1,750. What is the city doing to support these kinds of rentals? And I hear people saying, people who object to this are just naysayers. Well, when everything that is proposed is not creative and is just developer driven, that's why it looks like we're naysayers. But there is plenty of evidence that we really would like you council members and city staff to put forth advanced things that are not just rubber stamping what the developers want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just to check, is anyone, no one's here to talk about the animal hospital? If not, we'll move to, no, I am. Oh, you are? Yeah. Okay. Please come up.
Let's talk about animals.
Yeah.
Slideshow. Sorry.
Presentation?
Do you want
the
it?
applicant. So we'll actually move on to item. We need a motion for item PD1.
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted me to talk or you want other people to talk.
We'll bring you up for the.
Okay.
So, can I get a motion for PD1?
I'm trying to speak. This is Kira Kelly. I somehow would like. I missed my turn. I couldn't unmute. Could I still speak?
Sure. Okay. We'll go back.
Okay. Sorry.
2 minutes.
Okay. Tonight, at this very moment, District 65 is conducting a meeting to review school closure scenarios for up to 4 schools, in large part due to close their financial deficit. Each school closed will create a paltry savings of only $1.5 to $2 million. This, and also the state nearly taking over District 65 recently because of our financial situation, is really the worst case scenario for our schools. At the same time tonight, you're considering the Vermillion proposal that's seeking a 30-year property tax reduction. And we know it's including the 20% of affordable units, but this is diverting $40 million in property taxes away from our city and schools, amounting to nearly $500,000 per affordable unit. These funds would otherwise be realized if the parcel were developed under a typical plan development and that way complied with affordable housing requirements and full property taxes. It's hard to stomach to hear that this costs us $2.7 million a year, especially when my neighborhood school is one that's on many times in the closure scenarios. The council, economic department, and mayor have made it abundantly clear that affordable housing and very dense, intense development are priorities. But in this case, you're prioritizing affordable housing of studio and small units over Evanston's public schools, over our taxpayers, and our loyal residents. And we're doing this, we're asking Evanstonians to subsidize the tax share of a luxury high-rise that charges $3,000 for a studio, all the way up to $6,200 for a 3-bedroom unit. Experts say, and even ask for $1 million, that we can get a planned development at this location that pays both taxes and that funds our schools and provide the required affordable housing. As Commissioner Mombadi said, this site screams development. As was mentioned, Vermillion actually came forward with a 33-story building back in 2018, and our very pro-development city council surprisingly denied that. So they came back with an 18-story high-rise, which is much more appropriate here. I also worry if any of you listened to the Land Use Commission meeting or read up on that, because I heard one city council member say that it gave it a neutral recommendation when no, it was negative. So I hope you're familiar with the real risks that were brought up. And these risks were talked about: uncomfortably high winds that 80% of the time in a majority of the area in Fountain Square, and also daily deliveries and ride shares for 600 new people. So the wise words was that a smaller building will help mitigate these real risks. Think about it. These risks really could happen. I sent you a video of me at Davis and Judson, and then Davis and Fountain Square, and already I'll stop, but please be aware
I know it's
that
hard to hear the beeper from online, but if you can wrap up, please.
Thank you. I would just say, while your priorities are important, please don't forget our town and our residents and our schools, people who actually live here, and not just, the luxury small units. It's important, but really, please remember you're representing us as well, and we're trying to live our lives here. And we picked Evanston, for a reason, and depend on you to fairly represent us. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes public comment. So we're moving on to items for consideration. Can I have a motion relevant to PD1, please?
Mr. Chair, I would move item PD1, an ordinance 65025, granting a special use permit for 815 Howard Street for an animal hospital in the B3 Business District.
And I'll second.
A second. And can someone make the motion to suspend the rules, or that we'll have to do that at council? So I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay. Are there any questions we see the applicants here, so I don't know if anyone has any questions about the application. Now anyone? Seeing no questions, no lights. Can we please have a roll call vote?
I actually think there is a presentation, Mr. Chair. I don't know. Is that, if we need it, I'll put it out there.
I don't think we need it.
All right, that's fine. I'm good with that.
Okay.
All right. Councilmember Rogers.
Yay. Aye.
Councilmember Geracaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Unanimous.
The ayes have it. So this will be moving on to City Council this evening. Next item, can I have a motion in relation to PD2, please?
So move.
Second? Anyone?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded. I'll open the floor for discussion.
Do we want to have the presentation?
Oh, actually, we have the first, we'll have the presentation from Vermillion, and we'll give you folks 10 minutes, and then also the group from DCAP, well, we have your presentation as well. You'll be up next.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good evening, Council and members of the Planning and Development Committee. I'd like to begin by recognizing several key members of our team that we may call from to respond to any questions that you may have. First off, SCB is represented by Devin Patterson and Brian Romanelli, our design partners, Walsh Construction Company, our general contractor. I also want to highlight our Evanston-based partners, Kettle Camp and Kettle Camp, shaping the landscape and streetscape design, and altogether leading branding and communications. And finally, tonight we're joined by experts whose content knowledge is critical to a project of this scale, and also refuting some of the misinformation that's been shared repeatedly throughout this community engagement process. We have participating remotely RWDI, global expert on analyzing wind, JLL, Greystar, KLOA, Javier Milan is here, who was involved with completing our traffic study, as well as Sarah Disney Hoffey from Sam Schwartz, a T.Y. Lin company, who completed a parking analysis on behalf of our project and its impact on the downtown area. Lastly, we're joined by Jonathan Perman from the Perman Group, who completed our fiscal economic study, and David Riefun from Croak Fairchild, who can respond to any specific zoning issues. Together, this team has both the depth of experience and the local commitment to deliver a project that reflects Evanston's values. So the question I have for you tonight is, does this project meet the standards for a planned development and merit your approval? City staff has studied this in depth and concluded yes. Their analysis found that 605 Davis advances Evanston's goals in affordability, sustainability, preservation, and economic vitality. I also want to acknowledge the meaningful dialogue that we've had with members of this council throughout the process. Those conversations have shaped and improved the proposal that you see before you today. This site has been underutilized for more than 50 years. For decades, it's been little more than a drive-through and a vacant foundation. You've probably heard me call it a scar in the middle of downtown Evanston. It is a use that is wholly inappropriate for a city like Evanston. At best, this is a missed opportunity. It's also a site that I've spent nearly half my career trying to redevelop with prior councils. In the very core of downtown Evanston, steps from transit, retail, restaurants, and cultural life, this land continues to remain idle. And with your approval, we can replace an eyesore with 430 new homes. We can bring more than 600 new residents downtown to support shops and restaurants. We can generate 127 times in property tax revenues, more than $13 million in new revenue over 15 years, making 605 Davis one of Evanston's largest taxpayers. And last but certainly not least, we can preserve the university building, securing its future as part of Evanston's story while activating a critical site around it. This is not just a development proposal. This would represent the largest private sector investment in downtown Evanston. It's a chance to finally transform a long-neglected site in the center of downtown into a place that reflects this city's values: inclusivity, sustainability, a dynamic catalyst in the middle of downtown. This project requires vision and leadership that look beyond the short-term noise and focus on the long-term benefits. I want to talk briefly about the public benefits associated with this project. We've talked a lot about affordable housing. And there's 86 inclusionary units as proposed, which is nearly triple the requirement, adding 55 more affordable homes than the ordinance requires. We're talking about a 100% all-electric building from day one. We're pursuing LEED Gold design through version 5, which we're not obligated to do. That requirement phases in starting next year. We're incorporating composting, EV charging, 235 bike spaces. We are proposing upgrades to alley infrastructure and a $100,000 contribution to the city's alley fund. In the public realm, we're removing a total of 86 continuous feet of curb cut, once again wholly inappropriate for a city of Evanston's stature. New streetscape, new trees, public art, safer pedestrian conditions, safer conditions for cyclists. We're proposing a lay-by zone. We've made adjustments to that in response to Land Use Commission feedback, appropriate for pickups and deliveries. We are also funding high-visibility crosswalks at Church and Orrington. This project is not an exception when we think about policy. This is exactly what the city's frameworks call for. The comprehensive plan promotes mixed-use, transit-oriented development right in the heart of downtown. The downtown plan envisions Davis Street as a strong retail corridor with continuous pedestrian street wall. And the Climate Action and Resilience Plan sets ambitious energy goals, and frankly, this project delivers on them day one. It's not deferring these tough choices with all electric to the future. So appropriateness does matter, and this is the right place for new housing and density. In a walkable downtown core, steps from transit, shops, and services. Concentrating growth here avoids pushing it to outlying neighborhoods and strengthens the heart of downtown Evanston. Parking has also been carefully addressed. The plan provides a balanced solution. Some spaces on site, some spaces leveraging existing underutilized municipal garages. This approach not only serves the residents, but it also brings in new revenue for the city, putting your assets to better use. And an independent analysis confirms that traffic will remain manageable with all intersections operating at acceptable levels. And design is central here. 605 Davis is not a boxy tower. It's a sculpted form with setbacks that reduce massing and a modest pedestal that calms wind as it comes down the facade and pushes it beyond the boundaries of the building above the pedestrian scale. It has a ground floor that's reconfigured with direct engagement from council members on modifications that we've made. And the building meets the street in a way that's active, safe, and respectful of the university building next door, enhancing the pedestrian experience rather than overwhelming it. This is smart growth. Thoughtful design paired with smart use of infrastructure. I do want to address some of the concerns that we've been hearing. It's worth noting that many objections come from condo owners who already live in towers of similar scale. That is their right, but it's also ironic. Our engagement has underscored an important point. Too often, renters are treated as less valued voices in the debate, even though they make up nearly 44% of Evanston's households. Homeownership is increasingly out of reach for many, and renters are a vital part of Evanston's fabric. Downtown Evanston cannot be preserved for only those who already live here, and if we're serious about inclusivity, we must make room for everybody. Renters as well as owners, people of all incomes, ages, and backgrounds. And on affordability, some have questioned the Affordable Illinois program, and let me underscore, this program passed the Illinois General Assembly unanimous, both parties. Not a single vote against it. Every legislator agreed that it is a vital tool for expanding affordability statewide. And frankly, most of the development in the multifamily space that's happening right now in our region is because of that very program. And so the need in Evanston is undeniable, and the city itself has stated that new housing in Evanston is generally not affordable to low and moderate income households, and the IHO program exists precisely to close that gap. And here we have an opportunity to develop more IHO units than the program has since its inception. I want to touch briefly on the fiscal and economic benefits. The study prepared by the Perman Group contributes, the site contributes $21,000 in property taxes annually, and 605 Davis will generate more than $13 million in new revenue over the next 15 years. That's money that goes to the schools, to the city, reduces pressure on existing homeowners while strengthening the city budget. By 2031, annual property taxes will reach roughly $580,000. By 2034, $1.25 million, and by 2040, nearly $2.7 million. We've been pursuing this for 11 years. Frankly, if we keep up at this, the tax revenue adjustments that are being cited as problematic, like, we've got to start the clock. Let's start the clock. Let's do something to generate tax revenue on this site. Jonathan's report also summarizes many benefits to the school district. And ultimately, there's 18 new students and about 8 new students for District 202, 18 for District 65, 8 students for 202. Relative to the costs, this is a winner for the schools. It's not generating a significant number of school students, but it is generating a significant amount of tax revenue. So these are all things that are worth emphasizing, I believe, and this project does make use of the Affordable Housing Special Assessment Program, or Affordable Illinois, to enable the inclusion of 20% affordable units. It's a sensible, proven program that produces outsized results, and again, it converts an idle parcel into one of Evanston's largest taxpayers. I will close here quickly. Staff has found that the standards are met. The project is consistent with Evanston's plans, policies, and values. It delivers affordability with 86 on-site affordable homes, nearly triple the requirement. And this is not symbolic. It is a real expression of opportunity for people who otherwise would not live downtown. It's an all-electric LEED Gold building that meets tomorrow's energy standards today. Evanston will continue to lead, not follow, on climate action. We protect and reinvest in a landmark building, honoring Evanston's past while building for its future. And we locate 600 new residents, generating $2.7 million in annual taxes by 2040 and renewing foot traffic for local shops and restaurants. This is how we keep downtown Evanston thriving and resilient. So on behalf of our team, I respectfully ask for your consideration and approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for the presentation. We have been in touch with the Downtown Evanston Condo Association, DCAP. I'm not sure what can't remember. But if a representative come up, you'll have 8 minutes to go through your presentation. That's, I'm keeping track. So I gave 3 minutes extra to you all. That's typical. So staff has their presentation up on the screen. So if you can
try to be within the time limit.
Yeah, and
yeah, respectfully, we'll try to move this along. Stephen Miskowitz, 807 Davis residents. Also one of the members. I'm also president of the board of directors for the Sherman Plaza condo building. Here tonight representing the Committee of Downtown Evanston Condominium Association Presidents. You may not have been familiar with us before, but as I indicated in the email to you, we are the aldermen of our vertical villages. We are the ones as president that carry probably about 4 times the load of everyone else as far as board of directors. We are intimately aware of what works in buildings. We are intimately aware of the issues that we're bringing up tonight. And we are intimately aware of when builders fail because we are the ones left handling and dealing with the issues in our buildings. So for that tonight, you're going to hear from 2 of us. One of us you've already heard from, so I won't repeat Dr. Gulaga. But again, we have some objections to, there we go, some problems with this proposal. We're not against anything being built on the site. Quite contrary. It's just when we analyze this, look at what's being presented, we're finding flaws, and basically our ask tonight from the committee is to say, kick this back, as we usually do with most builders. Usually it gets done after the Land Use Commission. That hasn't happened so far. But address the flaws that we are bringing up tonight so that they can be worked around with a proposal that is palatable. So what are some of the issues that we haven't covered that I want to tonight? My favorite is the proposed height of the building. As you can see, the height for the normal FAR, even with a bonus, would be about a 10. This building is asking for a 17.3, so we're looking at about 173% percentage above the max. Okay, that is unprecedented for here in Evanston. In addition to that, one of the things that has to be established before any application can be presented to you or to City Council is clearly defined controlling interest in the project. We have a number of different entities that have some influence over this particular building site, but no central entity that has control over all of them. So in the event this were to move forward, and in the event City Council was to vote in support of it, there would be no one responsible for any issues related during the construction of this project. That's why we're harping on it. You know, it shouldn't be difficult to come up with one entity. Now, the builder has included more since the Land Use Commission, but there still is no defined controlling party for the site. Graphs can tell you an awful lot, and the one I have coming up will be a pretty good summation. We at Sherman Plaza, we exist on a lot size of just over 132,000 square feet. The Chase Building, which is how I know it, but everyone else by Orrington Plaza, is a little less at 58,000. This particular site that the developer is looking for is only 19,000 square feet. And yet, they are proposing a square footage equal to that of Orrington Plaza's total square footage, and slightly under what we have in our building. Basically is, you know, being 25-story. If you turn it up, you would get an idea of what we would look like if our building was totally vertical. This slide in particular is one of my favorites because, well, I enjoy graphs. But you get a clear idea on the far right-hand side, those two monoliths. The one second from the right is what the proposed building would be if they were allowed the amalgamation of the university FAR rights. And then the one directly on the end is exactly how high this is and how out of scale this is compared to the existing buildings, including ours, Orrington, Park Evanston, etc. I mean, it really gives a very clear distinction as to how obscene the ask is on this particular site. Most of our buildings are going to come in somewhere around a 6.0 or less. Here we're at 17.3. So again, the proposal, 286% above the D3 base limit, 103% above the maximum allowance with bonuses. No other project's going to have this. And the whole concept, by the way, of borrowing floor area ratio, which is a ratio, it's just a mathematical formula. One of the most dangerous things that I don't think we want to see here in Evanston, because this is not part of our code. If we want to make this part of our code, amend our building code. Don't attempt to codify it with a project and then have this come back because the next developer, wherever it may be, that wants to use this same metric and codify it is going to do exactly that. This is how we get in trouble. So earlier, Dr. Gulaga, who is also president of Optima Views, the towers across from the theaters, he spoke to you about the wind tunnels and the pedestrian safety, and he spoke to you about climate. So I'm going to go through that so we don't repeat ourselves. Loading bays and drop-offs. We are obsessed with the amount of traffic each of our buildings has to contend with on a daily basis. So appreciate our obsession. By city code, the proposed building's 420,000 plus square feet. They require one bay for the first 100,000 square feet, another bay for the next 200,000 square feet, but that's it. Okay, they're only capping this at 2 bays. We at Sherman Plaza, we have 3 bays, even though we would be within compliance. So this project, again, flaw in the design, needs a third bay, and there's room for it. We've put forward the idea that the retail space on the first floor could be taken away, and instead you could add a porte cochere, add areas for additional off-street parking, and provide a third bay or at least an additional half bay to help relieve the projected traffic and package congestion on the site. Valley, do you want to address your parking, or do you want me to go through? Oh. Well, Valley also is one of our members. One of the issues we have is the sheer amount of traffic this will generate on the street. And I know there are those in the room who say, well, traffic, big deal, it shouldn't be anything to have to contend with. It is. We all know what a congestion we have already off of Chicago Avenue, courtesy of Whole Foods and the illustrious Chicago and Davis. This developer in particular should have, as with other buildings, probably around 7 drop-off spaces in front of their building just to handle the sheer volume of what they're requesting. And again, no discredit to tenants. Whether you're a tenant or whether you're an owner within a building, it's the same thing. If you're not parking within the building, you're going to be using the loading zones in the front. Your Uber pickups are going to be in the front. Your package deliveries on a daily basis are going to be in the front. And that's already a congested area because the retail across the street is vying for the same parking spaces that are going to be existing in front of this building. Again, you sure you don't want to, because you covered this perfectly on there, or? Yeah, just try to be brief. Okay.
Okay.
Just so you know, you folks are over, but I'm giving you an extra 2 minutes, but if you guys can.
Sure.
Should I?
Yeah.
Okay. So the parking that has been shown in the proposal uses 8 buildings, 5 of which are primary student rental, and this building is not intended to be a student rental. Then they used average of those spaces, which is tighter than what it should be. Lastly, because there are so many places in the adjacent public parking, you will have people probably trying to find parking close to the building, not going there. So this will provide a huge increase in the attempts to find local parking on the streets, because the alternative is to go to church parking.
Thank you. Alley issues, again, not really addressed within the developer's packet. Be cognizant of the fact that this alley not only services Whole Foods, but it's also the drop-off and pickup for the Bright Horizons Daycare Center. 100 families use this alley for dropping off kids in the morning and then pick up in the afternoon as well. Again, adding to the congestion within the area. I'm going to skip through the text.
You folks are
We've
at
kind
10
of beat
minutes
that
right
to
now.
death. Yep. And here are just our wrap-up requests. Voting no at this iteration of the proposal. Scale back the project. Try to bring this in some sort of reasonable FAR conclusion. Conduct some independent studies. You know, there are issues over the wind, the climate, traffic, fiscal effects. We'd like to see some independent, non-developer sponsored projects. And we can have the debate over the tax abatements as to what Evanston wants to do with that as well. So again, thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, thank you. And at that, I will open up the floor to my colleagues up here. Councilmember Rogers.
I guess I'll go ahead and begin this evening. Thank you to both presentations. You know, I've watched this with interest because of my history and this land use being one of my, I guess, hobbies. And I've been really intrigued to see how this property has moved along. I've met with the development team a couple times, 3 times, I think, with different representatives. When I'm looking at this project, the one thing that bothers me most about it is that we keep hearing this is the height of downtown. In my opinion, this is not the height of downtown. In the opinion of the zoning ordinance, this is not the heart of the heart of downtown. This is not the heart of downtown according to our zoning ordinance. I feel this building is too large for this location. I definitely want to see something built here. In my discussions with the developers, I think from the beginning, I've kind of mentioned somewhere in the 20 to 24 story height was where I felt comfortable. I think that putting it this close to the edge of downtown, which is what I feel this truly is putting a lot of density, a lot of bulk, a lot of units right on the edge. I do like several aspects of the building. I love the fact that it is sculptured in such a way that it is not just a large block, which we so often see come before us. I do think that there are a number of benefits to this building. I think that having obviously the development, the property redeveloped, you know, it has been empty for a number of years, but I also know that up until last year, we really had a difficult time dealing with Chase. I remember the iteration of the office building that came through, and I do want to correct that. When they came at 18 stories, it was an office building, a totally different use. But I remember that building having to figure out how to make a drive-through go through the middle of the building, which created several challenges on all parts. So I definitely want to see it developed. I think that the process is, with the ownership change in the property, with Chase actually being willing to forego an ATM drive-through that hasn't been used as such, I will say maybe in the time that I've lived here, I don't ever remember going to that one. But I just really think this is too much in one place. As to the tax credits, and I've discussed this, tax credits are a law. The developers get to use that tool as they wish. But I also have kind of broken it down into what the city is getting in its tax breaks. And I feel it's my responsibility as an elected official here to make the determination about whether we as a city are getting what we need in order to cover the cost of bringing 600 new residents into the downtown. We've heard the number 66.7 million over 30 years. When you break that down over the course of 30 years, the city gets 16%. That gives the city 10.5 million, which is about 318,000 per year. Or for 600 units, that breaks us down to about $530 per unit per year. With 430 units. I've made the joke that with some people I've talked to about this, that when we look at the 600 people involved, it really comes down to about $10 a week. And that this is where I feel Sarah McLaughlin needs to start singing, and we start doing, can you support a building for $10 a week downtown to support our city services? I don't know what it costs for us to provide city services to an individual resident per week in the city of Evanston, but it's got to be more than $10. And kind of looking at the standards, which I believe we as a council are also being held to, I don't feel that this meets two of the standards, Standard B and Standard F. Standard B being the one that says this is compliant or in keeping with the zoning ordinance and the comprehensive general plan. I know this is where we want to go with our zoning ordinance. and our new comp plan, but it's not what we have today. I also am concerned about the traffic and congestion at this corner. Since City Hall has moved here, I drive this several times a week, and sometimes it already takes several times to get through the turn lane off of Chicago Avenue onto Davis. Traffic also backs up at Fountain Square. So for those reasons right now, I can't support this project moving forward. I would be much happier with something that is a 20 to 24 story, 300 to 350 units, which still gives us somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 65 affordable housing units. I don't think this building is the thing that solves our affordability crisis. I don't think this is the building that solves the problem on getting people fully downtown. It's a right step, but I think this step is too large.
Councilmember Isles.
I think we need to increase our housing supply. We have a shortage that is causing an affordability crisis. And increasing our supply will put a downward pressure on price. It'll grow our tax base. I think not all locations downtown are appropriate for density and mass like this, but this one is. It's been empty for 50 years. And I think it's time that we put something there. It'll bring 615-ish customers to where we need them downtown to help revitalize our downtown, which is critical for us to be able to budget going forward. You know, it grows our tax base. I do not think it's going to cause a parking problem. And the reason I voted for eliminating parking minimums downtown in the comprehensive plan is because we have 3 parking garages downtown and they're 50% full. There's office workers that aren't coming back. We need more residents downtown. That is a revenue generating thing for the city. I don't think parking is going to spill over into residential areas. I think that's a red herring. People that live in this building aren't going to be they're not going to be able to apply for residential permits. I think it's closer to walk to the church parkade from this building than it would be to park in the residential neighborhoods and walk. Design Evanston has signed off on this building. It is architecturally significant, which is important. You know, I've received a lot of letters, emails, in support of this project. I really do hope it goes through. I have not seen those traffic issues. I'm downtown all the time. Maybe I don't experience the traffic issues because I often ride my bike, but I haven't seen any significant traffic issues. I think traffic now compared to what it was pre-pandemic is significantly less since those office workers are no longer downtown. So I don't think that's a significant concern.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. For similar reasons as Councilmember Rogers, I don't support this. I've really appreciated many meetings with the developers. I do appreciate some of the modifications you've made. I've also learned through this process and visiting the area many times and hearing from residents. I think it still longs for improvement, particularly on the ground floor. I think the whole streetscape for the pedestrian experience really can be greatly improved. I think it's, you know, I feel very strongly that it's simply too much congestion, too much bulk and scale for this area, particularly just unloading onto a very narrow sidewalk. And I mean, our job is to really create, you know, to plan and to make sure we're creating a beautiful Evanston that attracts people here. And I think it's important that we're also able to acknowledge mistakes that we've made, that council's made in improving developments. I'm not going to talk about any in specific. I don't want to get into debate about that. But there have been developments that have undermined the vitality of some blocks. And it's really important to understand why, so that we don't repeat that. So I am concerned about the congestion. I'm concerned about the drop-offs. I think, too, I just see, you know, I look at what the Sherman Plaza has in terms of the number of trucks, that Amazon trucks and everything else that comes there, and for 2 drop-offs for this 430 unit building, I just don't see it being feasible. It is already congested. I go down that Davis Street block all the time. But the second reason is the tax break, and I do want to talk about that. Yeah, it's a state law. It doesn't mean we have to say yes to it. And by the way, I think we should ask ourselves, what are our housing goals? Is it to make the taxpayers pay for a whole bunch of studio units that are affordable in a essentially a high-rise gated luxury building? I mean, is that how we want to have our residents pay for affordable units? These are predominantly studio and 1-bedroom units that we're going to get that are in this proposal. I don't think that's the way we should be spending over $40 million of taxpayer money. And, I think it's really important to understand that, when you have a building of this scale, normally that's supposed to offer some relief. But this does the opposite. This creates a burden on our taxpayers. A building of this scale should offer relief. The first 3 years alone, they're going to continue to pay basically what we pay for the same, drive-through lots, yet we have to service 430 new units, over 600 people. And I'd also like, if we can, hopefully we will have time to revisit the whole design as well as the tax break. Basically it's like exacerbating already the regressive valuation that is so problematic in Cook County. I mean, that's what this is doing. It's shifting the burden onto working people in middle and also onto other buildings downtown. We already have an issue with rents being really high downtown. It's going to shift that burden onto the other buildings, and we'll end up, we have empty store spaces because rents are expensive. Well, those will become more expensive. I just want to point out with the Affordable Housing Special Assessment Program, there are several tiers. This project is looking at Tier 3 with 20% affordable housing. And again, mostly studios and 1-bedroom units. There's also a Tier 1 with 15%. I would prefer that we just did 10% affordable housing, included some workforce housing. That would be my first preference. But other than that, even the 15%, it would be so much better for the residents of Evanston. I'm here also for the residents, the working people, the local businesses, the property owners now, and I don't want to strain them anymore. The 15% Tier 1 would actually give us, if you average it over 75% of our taxes, they would get a 25% break for 10 years, renewable 3 times up to 30 years. That's a big difference from the Tier 3 that they are planning on using. To give you an idea, over the first 12 years with what they're using with Tier on average, if you take from the first year upon completion to year 12, we would get about 35% of what we would get otherwise in property taxes. However, if they used Tier 1 at 15%, we'd get 75% of our property taxes. That's a big difference. So I would like to encourage the developers to think about that. Again, I would prefer 10%, and we got all of our property taxes. But we have to think about our low income, our working people, our local businesses that are struggling right now. And that's, I care about them. I don't think our housing plan is about creating lots and lots of studios and 1-bedrooms and shifting the burden onto residents. So I just want to say I have an issue with the bulk and the mass. It's way out of scale, but I also have a serious issue with shifting this tax burden onto our residents. And make no mistake, we do. There's nothing hypothetical about that. So I'm going to stop there for the moment. There are other things I want to address in terms of FAR, the transfer of development rights, that we really don't have a mechanism in our code for that. I don't know why it even says in the ordinance that they're going to protect the landmark building. It's protected anyway, but I'm going to stop there for the moment. Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
I just wanted to, when I was elected, I mentioned that I would always explain my reasoning for why I decide the things that I do. And largely, this is not so much an issue that directly affects the ward that I'm in charge of. So I've not received a significant number of emails from the residents of my ward. And instead, I've gotten a lot of emails from residents of other wards urging me to vote this way or that way. And in these cases, I do try to give a slight deference to the city council member who is in charge of that ward, because they do receive the bulk of the emails. That is the person that the residents in that area typically reach out to express what they want. And so whatever I get is usually a splash over effect of maybe like 10 to 20% of what that alder person is getting. So I reached out to 2 of the city council members who are most impacted in that area, and I got strong opposition from one and kind of a middling response from the other. And I do think that for something that is coming to us with a negative recommendation from the Land Use Commission, I need more certainty, more of a gung-ho-ness. And so the what is the opposite of a recommendation? The anti-recommendation from the Land Use Commission combined with a not strong support from the city council members makes me think that this is a project that needs to go back to the drawing board for a little bit longer and then come back. And so that is an indication of why I'll be voting later. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other lights. Anyone? I'll make a quick comment myself as I'm sharing this. I'm in full support of this project as it stands. As I've joined council a few years ago, one of my big focuses has been my serving on Housing and Community Development Committee. We have roughly 900 people waiting for affordable units in town. 300 of those people are what we'd call like an Evanston preference. That means they either live here or work here. And many of those other 600 people have a tie to Evanston, but they have been displaced or they don't, but they can't prove that displacement. 80 units is extremely significant. That is a game changer for 80 families and individuals. And there's a reason why Cook County and the state legislature passed this law, is because there's really no one coming, in my opinion, there's no one coming to save us and build housing for these people. So you have to incentivize it. And this incentive plan is going to give us 20% affordable units in what I think is a beautiful building. And so I'm in full support. Feedback I've gotten from my constituents are, please say yes. So that is where I'm at. Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. One, I want to say it's not 80 whatever units for families. Over 60 of those are studios and 1 bedroom. So those aren't going to help our families. Again, we should be assessing what we need in terms of affordability, because we're paying for this. So we should think about, is this how we want to pay for affordability in a high-rise, basically, like I said, a gated community with lots of studios and 1 bedrooms, and paying for it dearly, and again, shifting the burden onto our already struggling property owners, small businesses, and working families. But I also want to correct the record regarding the Carlson building. That brought up, the Carlson building was originally proposed was, I think, 15 stories. And it was voted down by council. And then they came back pretty quickly thereafter with a more reasonably scaled building that was unanimously supported. So I think that's what we're looking at right now is to really take care of our city. We want to make sure that we plan appropriately and create beautiful streets that bring people into our city. So that's what we're doing now. And again, I'm also looking out for our tax base. Thank you.
Councilmember Rogers.
I just have a real quick question, and I don't know if staff can answer this tonight, so I'm not going to put you on the spot since this will be moving on to another meeting, I'm sure. How quickly do we get people off of our IHO wait list? We have this 900 number of people, but we don't. So, for example, if there's 86 units, we don't take 86 people right off the top because it depends on income, it depends on size of unit, all these sorts of things. So if you don't have an answer right now, that's fine, but I'd like to have an answer at some point.
Staff can look into the kind of longevity of being on the wait list.
Right.
We do track that information, so we'll get back to you with an accurate response.
All right, thank you.
Sorry. So when was that, Sarah? Was that 4 months ago when we had SEPA talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, as units are available, they contact down the list, and of course, because of not everyone's lease is month to month, but they have a call out to people at the income levels, depending on, and so and from what I've heard from housing providers, we actually are much more efficient because we have SEPA doing this than in Chicago. So I'm sure we can. I don't know all the details, but it was great. It's a great watch. I would SEPA is one of our best partners, so I would say if you guys are housing nerds, please watch that. That's one of the more interesting things we talk about up here. But yeah, they're filled fairly quickly.
Yeah, I know how it works. I'm curious if we can get a number, because this is basically doubling our IHO in the city of this type of units. And I just kind of was curious. So thanks.
Councilmember Kelly.
Thank you. I just had a question. I mean, I know the answer, but I wonder if, a little bit of the answer. So in our inclusionary housing ordinance, that would mandate 15%. It also says that publicly funded developments require twice as many units. So that would be 30%. Now, in this case, we're not requiring 30%. We're taking the 20%. And I just want to know why we wrote that into our inclusionary housing ordinance, that this kind of tax break would be exempt of having to double the units. I mean, because that seems perfectly reasonable, getting a lot of, this is a form of a subsidy, but yet I know it's exempt, the tax, like a property tax abatement for that. So why would we do that?
That was strictly for either government fund, city of Evanston funds, or typically if we did a land.
No, I follow. I follow what we did. I understand that they are not held to that. I would maintain that they should be, since we're paying dearly. That should be included, because I know LIHTCs for low-income housing tax credits. If you get those, you have to give double, but not this. And so I'm just curious and Juan, if you want to speak to that, if you were on the committee that made that decision, I'd be curious to know why.
This is not a direct investment by the city or other organizations that fund. The assessment reduction is not considered a direct investment of public funds.
Okay.
That's why.
I think it clearly is when you freeze the valuation of property at the same amount it is an empty, parcel, while you have a 31-story building paying the same. That's a form of a subsidy. But anyway, thank you.
Okay, last chance. I see no more lights up here, so Director Flax, if you could please take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Rogers.
No.
Councilmember Geracaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Kelly.
No.
Councilmember Isles.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
No.
We have a tie.
Tie.
So that will move on to City Council with a neutral recommendation. And that puts us at the end of our meeting, and we're ready to adjourn. I'll say we will be back here at 7:30 for City Council. Thank you.